And so how did you decide to just come back?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them, it's like we went back for, I think it was the Thanksgiving weekend or the Christmas. There was a layover, and I was back to Seattle, and kind of reality dawned, and I thought, I talked it over with people at King, and I thought, because King had an affiliate, they had a Fox affiliate. King Broadcasting owned one, so the head of King had been to the affiliates meeting, and he knew that that show wasn't going to last very long. He knew that the network had nothing behind it. But wow. The other thing was I was going to have children, and I knew that my wife was pregnant, and I knew that. It would be that if I went to Los Angeles, it would be 24 hours. I would be working 24 hours a day. And the people that went there walked out of relationships and walked away from children.
A lot.
And yeah, in order to be famous, you have to do what's necessary. I mean, in order to be and most people will do. They will do pretty much anything.
So it sounds like you made a real responsible decision to come back and be a stand-up guy.
That's me making it sound good. That's me making it sound good. But I guess what I'd say is the reality is that I wasn't willing to do what was necessary. I was not. I came up against a thing where I think other people that I know would have walked over. I know somebody who had an abortion because they had a chance at a big show. Okay, had a deal on a show that looked like it might be kind of big, and she decided to have an abortion because it would have messed up her career.
That's a heavy decision right there.
So I mean, yeah, but I mean that's the level to which if you've got that laser focus on being in the spotlight, that's
sacrifice, hard work,
what you will.
Abortion.
And the other thing is like, you've got a best friend who's your partner, and the network comes and tells you, we like you, we don't really care much for your best friend over there, and then you make the deal, and then you tell your best friend. It's like, you guys saw the Facebook movie, you've seen. That is the show business story. That's what it is. That's what you have. At some point, everybody does that thing. They make that deal.
So you come back to Seattle, and did you immediately strike a deal or to
I came
reinvent
back. No, I didn't. Came back, and the show just about went under, and I felt it was the worst year of my life. Okay, it was the absolute worst year of my life because I had twins. Which you're up 24 hours a day, you get no sleep. I thought that I could just sort of step into Ross's shoes and wear a suit and interview guests, and because I'd interviewed people before for the right. I thought I was a good interviewer, and it's a completely different thing on television. I was doing terrible, the ratings were plummeting, and it looked like the show was going to get canceled, and I thought, great, I gave up going to LA so I could come here and drive the show into the ground. That's sort of what I great, good call, John. And then the show was in fact canceled. A lot of people don't really understand this, but the people say, oh, it changed format. That's not technically what happened. Is that the 6 o'clock on a Sunday interview version of the show was canceled, but then they gave us this opportunity to try this different format at night. And push back Saturday Night Live was during the summer. And the reason they did that was because everybody in the building, all the people who were secretaries, people who worked in the kitchen, everybody in the building at King, and I never knew that we were doing this, but we were always, the carpenters, whatnot, we were putting them all on TV in these little roles. They would play these little cameo roles.
Right.
All the secretaries, the carpenters, the people in the kitchen, and they'd all come home and they were so thrilled that they were on TV, and we never understood that we were doing this. But they all came up to the program director and said, it'd be a real shame if that show went away. Everybody in the building said it'd be a real shame to see that show go. And he actually was afraid to he thought, well, we'll try this.
Have a revolt.
Yeah, and when we tried it, it worked. And suddenly the show was doing really well, and NBC said, well, we'll give you 6 weeks to try this out, and after 6 weeks is when the television, the big TV convention happened, and we won the award for best local show in America. And so NBC sent a telegram, because that's what you did in those days before the internet. It said, looks like you guys made the right decision, so keep the show on there. And in fact, we actually helped SNL. That was when they were starting to go into that kind of tumble.
Oh yeah, they were tanking.
Their bed, and they were doing better numbers in Seattle because we were there to help them, to bring an audience to them.
You were before them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Only place in America that
Exactly.
pushed it back to to midnight, and people at first were like, "What? We gotta wait!" And then it got quiet. That complaint stopped, and then after a while they were like, "Thank God you guys are here," And so then it became people would watch us, and then SNL up to Weekend Update, and that'd be this hour-long.
Yeah. That was it. Unless there was a cool musical guest, you might
You
go
might
hang
be-
out and back, and then come
might
back
be
in
that.
when they played.
And that's essentially the story. And we started pulling down ratings like we were the number one show in Seattle.
Well,
And
we were
no one
all
is-
glued to it. It was the best thing that happened during the week. Was no matter what was going on in your life, no matter what kind of week you had, you could always tune in to Almost Live, and we were laughing at ourselves. Because Seattle was, we were still an anomaly to the rest of the country. We had there's a uniqueness. I don't know if there is so much anymore, but at the time, there was this uniqueness about the different, Ballard and Wallingford and West Seattle and all Renton and Kent and all this. And you guys were not afraid to point those out. And I wonder, do you think that was? Did you guys ever sit down and say, we might be polarizing some people. This is a real risk. Let's just kind of put it out there. Or did you guys just say, let's just make fun of everybody?
Yeah, and that's the thing. We made fun of everybody, and the thing was that you'd run into people like, oh, I don't want to talk to you because I'm from Mercer Island, or I go to WSU, or I go, whatever. And it would be like, we made fun of everybody, but no. We didn't think we were. No, we didn't. It's just the stuff that we made fun of. Yeah.
And then some of the legendary skits, the high-fiving white guys.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Billy Kwan.
Right?
Billy Kwan.
That's what Gene texted me and said, taught me how to be like Billy.
Right.
One of my favorite skits of all time were the reporters. The reporters that got fired and
Pack of reporters.
Yeah, pack of reporters. It's just you guys had so many memorable moments.
Yeah, and I kind of think that it was the pre-South Park days of Comedy Central. I think if we had the exposure, I think the high-fiving white guys and Billy Kwan could have been
Speedwalker.
Yeah, I think they could have been really huge hits, and they were locally, and particularly with Billy Kwan, we were the first people to do that type of to do that parody of martial arts. Now, when you look at it, I mean, everybody does that.
Yeah.
That's like a staple.
Well, yeah, because if you watch Adult Swim,
Yeah, so I mean, but we were the very first.
Absolutely.
To do that.
And it was, we were so proud that it was a Seattle show, and it also. We couldn't wait every week to see what you were going to blow our minds with. I mean, the middle management suck-ups, the unemployed lawyers who were harassing people on Pac Ave.
Or maybe they'll mention Tacoma this week.
Yeah, everybody's waiting to see who are they going to pick on this week. Is it going to be us? Because then we would wear it like a badge. Oh yeah, Almost Live talked about Tacoma.
We didn't make that many Tacoma jokes because those were the jokes that everybody always used to make. I'm serious about it. So it was just we moved it to Kent. We moved it, but that was because no one had made those. I mean, it's like that's an area that there's all these areas around Seattle that people fled Seattle from, and it had to do with their economic status. They were basically fleeing the Seattle public school.
Oh yeah, they were heading out.
And so if you were wealthy, you went to Mercer Island, you had this first-rate school district, and if you weren't, you ended up if you were middle class or whatever, you'd end up in Shoreline. But if you didn't have money, you ended up in Kent, where
It's true.
yes, it is, and it's very sad that people felt that they needed to flee the school district, but you ended up with a certain culture in Kent that, and Bob Nelson, who was probably our, I think our best writer, he was from that situation. He was from, a poor, I'll just say it, he was from a poor family that lived in Kent, and he had a lot of issues with that place, and so he wrote some but Bob's he's not a mean person, he doesn't have a mean bone in his body, and he's one of the top screenwriters in Hollywood now, and he's doing very well, and he's very smart, but he had some really good observations about just that culture, and the stuff that he just wanted, like, that kind of, willful, like, we're dumb and we don't care, that kind of just reveling in, like,
Trans Am's on blocks.
Yeah, right, exactly. That kind of, anti-intellectual revelry about, damn, we're good, like, this is us, and why do I have this accent when I'm not, anyway. So he wrote a bunch of that stuff.
Take us behind the scenes to like your production meetings. You guys get together where you throw out these ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, you had so many talented people through there who, like you said, who have gone on to so many things. What was that like? Did you guys just throw out ideas and you got the thumbs up, thumbs down? And...
Yeah, we'd go, what's going on this week? Is there some event that we need to, and sometimes something would happen that we, of course, would have to do something on.
Right.
Then we'd assign up who was going to go out in the field, and then if you weren't out in the field, you were writing jokes, and we learned that you couldn't reveal jokes until the day of the show, because if you heard it on Monday, it wasn't funny on Saturday,
right.
And so on Saturday morning, everybody would reveal the jokes that they were. And that was a very fun meeting, because everybody would, whatever their take was on, what had happened that week, and that was really fun. And then we'd rehearse in studio, and then we'd just bring the audience in, and we did it as if it was a live show. We very rarely, just maybe a half a dozen times in 10 years, did we ever stop down. We just did it like it was a live show.
Any memorable characters that we never got to see? Like even when it got into like development or whatever, you guys really thought this was funny, and then for some reason at the last minute said,
there was one that we put a lot of work into, which was Mrs. Butterwitch, and it was this haunted bottle of syrup. That did evil things. And it's just like, just looked at it in the end, and just looked at it, and just, this sucks really bad. This sucks really hard. This is terrible, and we're not putting it on the air. And that, just very rarely did that happen, but that's one that comes to mind. Very rarely would we commit the resources or the time to something that just flat out would not air. That was very rare. Yeah. There's one where there was when the bus tunnel was being built, Seattle was just getting completely torn up, and the city downtown association made a song called "Downtown is Jumping" to try to encourage people that you should come down, and it was like, "Downtown is jumping, it's really jumping, with downtown is really jumping," and we wrote one called "Downtown is failing, it's really failing, with prostitutes and destitutes, downtown is really failing." And so we hired a singer, and we did all this, and the word got to somebody in the ad department or the program director, and they said, you can't run that, because it's going to make the Downtown Business Association very so when there'd be things. The only things we couldn't really do was stuff that would piss off advertisers, and so
which still holds true
pretty much.
I mean, that's the way it goes.
Pretty much.
Ever get calls from city council members, mayor, anybody who were like, "Hey, take it easy on us"? Not so much. No.